My name is Phillip Davis. I directed Balls. So this movie came about during an odd time when I was between drafts of a feature that I'm working on, but waiting for feedback. And also I was in the habit of writing every day. So I was just forcing myself to write no matter what, and I didn't have the feature to work on, so I was digging through old stories of, this one came from, it was a mix of a very awkward true story that my roommate told me with some of my own imagination, and it just came about because I was forcing myself to have the fingers on the keyboard writing every day. I'm really bad with titles. The name Balls dawned on me many drafts into the short. I was calling it the Jacuzzi for the longest time, which doesn't have quite the same flavor. I'm sure I unconsciously plagiarized hundreds of horror films. I can't think of anything that actually was like an influence on this movie. Yeah, it's always a worry that I'm like unconsciously going to plagiarize something I'm not aware of. Well, my focus is always, as Alfred Hitchcock said, the three things you need for a good movie are the script, and the script. So that's always the most important part. But I spent an unnecessary amount of time thinking about the lighting, because I had a cinematographer lined up to shoot this for me, and he fell out at the last minute because a higher paying gig came along. So I was like, okay, I got to shoot this myself. I spent a night kind of pre-lighting it with all the lights I had and trying every combination under the sun. And ultimately I was just like, it looks better when they're all off. And so it was lit with no movie lights. It was just one little light that I submerged in the tub and a candle light and natural moonlight. And I'm glad I did all the overthinking, but it was really for nothing. The only problem that location had was the hot tub, we didn't know it, the filter was not inside of it. So as we shot, the water became murkier and murkier and more disgusting, and we kind of corrected for it in color, but you can notice it for sure if you're paying attention. We definitely went through a lot of towels, but I think everyone was comfortable the whole time. I actually wrote this basically for the actors who were in it. I was hoping to get my roommate, whom the story is kind of based on, to play the part, but for reasons that may or may not be ball related, he pulled out at the last second. I used one of my other friends, and the girl, Yasmin, is a very old friend of mine and a fantastic actress, and she, the whole time I was writing it, I only wanted to do this if she was the person, because I don't think anyone else that I know could pull off the vibe that character needed. They flew out, so the actress is from New York, the actor is my friend here in Los Angeles, but I find it cheaper and easier to fly people out to Utah and film there than to deal with the logistics of filming in Los Angeles. So my last 4 or 5 short films have all been shot in Utah. What have I learned? I didn't learn this on set, but I definitely learned it through the process, is just inspiration doesn't just come. Inspiration comes best when you are disciplined. This idea, the spark, happened while I was forcing myself to write. I was forcing myself to type words on the page. It started off as kind of this idea that I was kind of into, but it didn't click yet. And after typing out a couple drafts of just forcing myself to write every morning, it was, suddenly the pieces clicked, and I thought, oh man, what if he doesn't have a dick? And then it was just it was the perfect level of symbolism to the absurd degree, and also giving him stakes as to why he really doesn't want his pants to come off in this thing. So yeah, my takeaway was just keep working, keep your fingers on the keyboard, and that's what fertilizes inspiration to come when it finally does. I think the vibe on my sets is almost always fun. Everyone has a good time. No one takes it too seriously. I always feel like the vibe on set should kind of mirror the vibe of the movie, ultimately I do these things to have fun. I do it because, there's no better feeling than doing this work, There's no greater joy than the process of making a movie, and ideally that love of the process infects everyone else on set. The only thing I ever want audiences to take away is an experience, and usually it's an uncomfortable one. My favorite part was just working with the actors. You know, that is the most magical part of making any movie, because that's where it can all go awry. That makes or breaks the movie. You know, you need a good script, but you also need good performances, and the rest of it kind of doesn't matter. Not to downplay all the other aspects, but if you have like great performances and a great script, it can look like anything and still be good. So, you know, the feeling when the performances work on set, and especially when they surprise you and surpass your expectations and you're kind of pushing each other, it just feels like magic, and there's no better feeling in the world than that. And I was very happy that this came together as well as it did in the one single night of shooting that we had to do it. It was filmed all in one night. I definitely planned it that way because I had to fly my actors out from New York and LA, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. Yeah, come hang out in my parents' backyard hot tub. I anticipated it, but you know, you can never quite fully prepare for it, was the fog on the lens. I usually like having the camera up closer to the actors with a slightly wider lens rather than being far away on a long lens. And so a lot of the shots are in the hot tub. A lot of them I'm just in the hot tub shirtless operating the camera, and I had like a little electronic fan just off camera, like blowing on the lens to try to keep it from fogging up. But there was nothing to do other than kind of, you know, try to color correct it. And interestingly, I ended up using the fog as a bit of a narrative device, because when some moments kind of feel a little more sexy, I was able to cut to the little, it's like a Pro Mist filter or something on the lens that you just get free of charge every once in a while when the wind blows the right direction. So I did kind of use it narratively in the edit. I just left the camera running and eventually it would defog, and I really hate interrupting actors' takes, you know, because you never know if something really juicy is going to happen. And when you interrupt the take, it interrupts their flow, and, you know, no matter what, even if there's big technical, like, it has to be a big problem for me to call cut. So I edited the whole movie myself and colored it, and yeah, sound mixed, everything. Yeah, I basically did everything on this little movie. I mean, I really overthink and overplan my movies. I storyboard every shot. Usually the final cut ends up about 80% faithful to what I have preconceived, but, you know, that's not always the case, and sometimes it's way better when that's not the case.
Can you give me one word to describe your film?
Awkward. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and excited for the people that get to see it tonight.
I'm stoked.